How y'all doing? On one of my old channels, I made the shoebox frisky breeze. So I got on and damaged it with cart water. As you can see, I have convector science and reeler, and also recoil, friction, static, um, geoscience. That's geoscience itself. Geoscience and the vector. Also right here, as you see, vector science. What I do with this is just actually freeze a couple of bottles, put it in there, picks up a cold temperature. When the air breathes in through these holes, it recoils and stays charged by friction and timer, by recoil and friction science and static. This one is not a convector. It's similar. This one has no holes here. It has holes here. This one cools, as you can see from the AC. I'm gonna turn it off. Stays charged photonic like and friction like. I have some salt in here and friction science, and that's it. And vector science, convector. That's it. So on over here, as you see, this one's a recoiler. It feels fresh in here, and recoils temperatures right here with this bottle cap. This one's a hydrogen convector. If you know bioscience, hydrogen turns into cold plastic in gel. Of course, I don't have anything that will turn into gel, but in the future I'll put a cold vector gel, and the battery will recoil synthesis of static friction that turns cold, and the battery stays cold with cold static. This one's a recoiler, bounces off through these holes, and vectors out through these, and this one's a convector and has a friction. This is a homemade bubbler. As you can see, my bed is freezing. Not freezing, but bow breeze. It picked up the hot air. This one's just a recoiler. You see that AC? It blows up air here and it books. It freshens out the bed sometimes when it burns. So these are some simple household experiments. Also this one. This one's a container retainer. Air breezes in through here, builds up here, and exhausts. And it cools and it railers. So as well as here, this thing is my homemade bio, not synthesizer. I have a bunch of seeds here. It's not seasoned to broach. Right now I'm not watering it, I'm irrigating it. I'm also using it as a vector to keep this at a certain temperature. This thing, I just stab it in the ground and it erupts, boom, when you water it. And that's it. That's a pretty cool home sci-fi thing. And of course this thing right here, I keep this thing cool because I have some apples to make vinegar in a bowl and stuff. That's it. And right here I'm trying to make a water generator that builds up static friction and radiation. I use these two plastic laver carts and stuff with this crystal stone that recoils static friction. That'll heat up the aluminum can right there, and it should reach condensation as soon as I reach friction. Of course, I gotta rub it for a whole lot of minutes so I managed to recoil what I want, but I haven't done it. I have to do it over 15 minutes if my sci-fi is correct. And I'll have at least half of that can of aluminum filled with water, then dripping it here by ratcheting convector science. It took me about 10 days to build up the energy. That's why I got the battery to just do it in one swoop, to have about this much water in one try. If it went correct with my science friction. But of course I have to rub these two cards bitewise like this for 10 minutes, and then a sensor motion capacitor, I just slide it not on under it but here, and that's it. It should condensate water. That's a water generator. Well, I'll work on it later. Right now I'm gonna let it right there. Picks up some solar waves from the window, and that one's is equalizer. As you see, it's kind of dirty. I left it dirty because it also picks up dust specks and things I don't want with static friction, and it has built up residue of the muddy specks you see there of what it picked up because it frictions through the screws and stuff. It helps you brace better if you don't have the money for one of those vapor rubbed things that picks up all the dust specks. I usually use this. I make my own science convector, just like the AC on the window. When you take off your filter, it picks up all these things with static friction. That picks up from different recipes of screws here. One of them's magnetic, one of them's not. One of them's aluminum or foil, something like that. And as you can see, it denses up and tells me that there's condensation in this room when it evaporates, and I know I could generate water as well. And this one is a foiler for my filter. I got some water and some algae. It filters particles and molecules, and I have this one to kill insects. You know those little butt flies?